Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, October 19th, 2014. It occurred to me this week that I feel shocked that we're still slugging through the who's the father of Victoria's baby storyline. We accepted it. I accepted it when it happened, but the fact that she hasn't had the paternity test yet is kind of weighing on me. I think it's hard to watch her go back and forth between Billy and Stitch, and I get the sense that Victoria's at a place in her life where she's standing at a crossroads, and who the father of her child is, you can't deny that that's going to make a difference in your decision of who to be with. And right now, it feels like she keeps swinging back and forth between these two men and trying to convince herself that it doesn't matter and that the only thing that really does matter is the health of her child. And I think that's noble, but it's not entirely realistic. Victoria wants to be with one of them, and she's denying herself that joy. I feel this week that it's shifting toward Victoria and Stitch. Well, obviously, there was quite a few moments between them in the past week, and she kissed him, claiming that she doesn't want to have anything to do with either of these men, and then she really had tender moments with both men this week. But Stitch specifically, they shared a couple of kisses, and I just wonder, maybe it's me feeling like a Billy and Victoria fan for some reason, but I just have never really felt the connection between Victoria and Stitch. I've always felt like Stitch was a rebound guy for her. There was just something about the way that they got together that made me think, well, does Victoria really love Stitch, or does she want Stitch, or did she just want Stitch to not be Billy, or did she just think that Stitch was the kind of man who was a little more solid, a little more reliable, and that's why she was drawn to him? I don't know. I never really have felt that connection there. I wonder if Victoria is leaning toward him more this week because she is afraid to do this on her own, to have this child on her own. She said as much, but I don't know if that means that she is in love with Stitch. And likewise, although I am very much enjoying Billy and Chelsea's relationship, I also wonder if they're not in a place where they're kind of in limbo waiting for someone else. Chelsea's clearly still in love with the memory of her husband, of Adam. I think she is very much attracted to Billy and can very much picture her life with Billy, but I think Billy is in this holding pattern. It's been an incredible year for him. He's lost so much. I don't know that he's really ready. I don't know if either Victoria or Billy are really ready to enter into a new relationship. I think they're both kind of being forced to suppress the feelings that they have for one another for one reason or another. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I want to know who the father of Victoria's baby is. It's going to make a difference. It's ridiculous that we've had to wait this long to find out another paternity result. It just drives me crazy. And it also occurred to me this week that it feels like Victoria's pregnancy is almost snuck up on me. Like, when did she become this pregnant? Has it been 7-8 months since she's been pregnant? I mean, if it's been a year since Delia died, how long has it been since Victoria got pregnant? Are we in real time right now? Because it's like last week she went into false labor. I guess I didn't realize we were that far along in the pregnancy. My timing is all thrown off. It certainly does not feel to me like a year since Delia's death. Do you feel like it's been that long? I guess it is because things happen at warp speed in Genoa City. I mean, so many things happen in the course of a year. I guess that makes sense as to why it would feel a little like it's been longer than a year since Delia died. But it is indeed, this Halloween is around the time of Delia's death anniversary, and I did appreciate that Y&R acknowledged it this week. They have a tendency to do some pretty bad things, and think about how we felt about the show. I guess that's another thing this week that I was thinking. Tuesday's episode was such a beautiful tribute to Delia, and it made me think about, okay, well, where were we a year ago? And it was such a dark thing to do, to have Delia die, to get run over on the side of the road, to just die there and lie there with her father waiting for an ambulance to come, and then to pin it all on Adam and remember his horrible torture that he went through, and the scarf, and every day with the guilt and the seeing of the Delia. It was just such a dark place to be, and I did kind of have to take a moment to appreciate that Y&R has pulled us out of that depression tailspin, and it's been a little bit lighter since then and a lot more enjoyable, I think. But I did think it was nice that they paid tribute to Delia, complete with all of the details. They must have staged a photo shoot with little Delia and the new Billy so that we could have some photos around the place. I thought this week, since we've had so much new casting, they have to have a checklist of things that they do when a new actor is cast, and one of them is retake all the photos, because even at the Abbott house you'll notice that there are lots of photos of new Phyllis and Summer together and all of the Abbotts together, and just that has to be one of their things. When someone new comes on the show or comes back on the show, they redo all of the family photos, which is a nice touch. And those are the little things that do make you feel like you're at home or you're watching something that's real. So I did see that photo of new Billy and Delia, and I thought it was very nice. I thought everything about the tribute was very nice. The morning of the anniversary of Delia's death, apparently there was some kind of dedication ceremony at Delia's school. They were dedicating a new garden to her or something, but the family went to the school in the morning and then came back. Billy came back to their houses afterwards. He went to the house he shared with Victoria. So after this garden dedication ceremony, Billy is there with Victoria. That was who his wife was at the time. Life was so very different for him, and Billy starts to describe the moment. He's reliving it, talking about how excited Delia was for the Halloween play and how she'd been practicing her lines, and she had such a glory moment being in the spotlight in this school play, only to have an unfortunate end. I mean, unfortunate's even not a strong enough word, but Billy and Victoria were really bonded together in that moment. And Victoria's the entire time carrying this manila envelope, which she gives to Billy and says this is a gift from Delia. And what it is a homework assignment. It was a composition. It was something that Delia had written in one of her classes, and the teacher recently found it and gave it to Victoria, and it was amazing. They started reading it, how much Delia's talking about how much she loves her family, and Billy just gets so choked up he really can't even finish it, and Victoria is with him and sort of hovering over him and just being in general so supportive of Billy. And I really felt that Billy and Victoria connection for the first time in a while, well, since the recast certainly. Just seeing Billy and Victoria together actually did remind me of how wonderful Victoria was to Billy and for Billy after Delia had died. Do you remember how she gave him anything he needed? She, you know, if it's being with me, fine. If it's being not with me, if it's you needing space, fine. Victoria did anything and everything she could to try to be strong and to hold that marriage together. And it was Billy who was off looking for something else that he already had at home. He already had someone in Victoria that was understanding and supportive. Yes, she hadn't been through a loss of a child, but she was going through it right then and there with him. And he chose to ignore that. So in that right, and especially when it was the other kind of screw-up seeming actors, I don't think that Billy necessarily deserves to have Victoria's forgiveness, but there is something about this actor that is a lot more mature. I don't get screw-up playboy, former gambler, womanizer from him. I get mature, and in that way it feels like a better fit to see this Billy and Victoria together. It really made me want a reunion of those two, and I hadn't felt that way previously. I thought, oh, this is all about the connection now between Billy and Chelsea, but I really felt it was there between Billy and Victoria. Maybe it's just me. I might be the only one, because it was such a short series of scenes, but I just thought, ugh, Amelia Heinel was so good too. There's this, just as Billy is leaving the house, she's crying, and they're just having a reflective moment of, think about where we were a year ago and how, you know, our relationship was strong, and now look at us. And he apologizes to her one more time, and with tears in her eyes streaming down her face, she says, "You don't owe me any more apologies." So she's, you know, she's trying to evolve past that, but just the look in her heart, it was loss for Delia, but loss of her husband, loss of her best friend, and yet he's there so close and can't touch him. And I just totally connected in with her. I thought Amelia Heinel was so good in that scene, and I think maybe seeing her tenderness, weakness, made me open up a little bit more to new Billy as well. I could sense that. I could sense him kind of playing off of that, and it helped me zero in on him too. So just phenomenal scenes between those two. They certainly were not the only people who loved Delia, needed to remember Delia. There was a scene in the park where Jill and Esther have just come from Delia's graveside, and Esther is crying and she's doing her best to be positive. She's hurting. This was her granddaughter, and she's trying to almost make it a little bit like magical in a way, like the grass in the graveyard is so green. Could it be from the tears of the loved ones? I think she even called it emerald. I mean, Esther was being very poetic, and Jill is with her being very staunch and very stoic, and it was such a stark contrast, Esther being Esther, but Jill being Jill, and Jill can't take it anymore, can't take the positivity anymore. She erupts at Esther, saying, you know, Esther was talking about a pony that she left at the graveside and how much Delia loved ponies, and remember Pinkerton? And Jill said, I don't know, to me it just felt like one of the most horrible things Jill has ever said. She lashes out and says, Pinkerton has been under the ground for a year, Esther. It's disintegrated into nothing by now. And it just made me gasp, because it was such a horrific thing to say and a horrific image to put into someone's head, especially someone who's grieving. I mean, when you've lost someone, I think you have to try hard not to think about what's going on underground. It's impossible to think about that and still continue to be happy. This is someone that you loved and knew, and there is that decay, and that's something that you try to kind of put out of your mind, I think, or I do. And for Jill to grab onto that and throw that in Esther's face was just so horrible. And Jill regretted it immediately, of course. As soon as she said it, I think she kind of sat down and embraced Esther and was like, I'm sorry, this is hurting me too. And she did make up for it a little bit later, but boy, it struck me. The whole Delia thing was horrific. And Y&R was really taking us right back there. Even took us back to the crash scene that we haven't seen for a while. The scene opens up. There's just actually a shadow cast over, crawling over this display of flowers and photos of Delia and stuffed animals, and you're thinking, who's that gonna be? Who's coming up upon the grave? But from the previews from Monday's show, we kind of knew it was Chloe. Chloe has come back to Genoa City, and well, first of all, I loved her haircut. I loved the dramatic lip stick, the dramatic lip color. I thought she looked so beautiful. I love the way she delivers her lines, and I'm thinking, why is she not on the show anymore? I don't understand. Why would Chloe leave just to come back? Whose choice was this I mean, why can't she be on more? She's hip. You know, she's one of the only, and maybe it's because she's probably around my age, but she's probably one of the only people on the show that is kind of around my age, and, you know, that's a little funky and a little bit different and not blonde. So I missed her as soon as I saw her. I thought it was great to see her, and I immediately thought, is she pregnant? Immediately. The second I freaking saw her, I just thought, well, she does have on that big black jacket. And what do you know, as Chloe is at the graveside talking to Delia, saying, not a day has passed that I don't think about you, Kevin comes up and he's there too, and the two have a meeting, and I knew the second she refused to hug him, something was up. He goes in for a hug and she's like, no, 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 no. I thought, ooh, she's pregnant. Which we all predicted and all knew. But I enjoyed that scene, that confrontation really, and closing between Chloe and Kevin. It was a nice moment of kind of remembering Delia, remembering the relationship that they had had. Chloe apologizes to Kevin and she says, what I did was not right, and serving you with the divorce papers like that. I mean, in the post-Delia trauma, Kevin was totally there for Chloe. He, you know, like she said, he would hold her at night, make her eat. He nursed her back to health like she was a little baby bird, and in return, she didn't end things well. She didn't end things maturely, and I enjoyed seeing Kevin call her out because he's been Mr. Grumpy, Mr. Dark for months since she left, and it was nice seeing him call her out. She led him on and then abandoned him, and the result is the Kevin that we're seeing today, this dark, brooding, motorcycle riding, novel writing Kevin. I kept thinking, I wonder if all that was leading up to this moment with Chloe, because there's still something going on with Kevin that I haven't entirely figured out yet. He's 100 million times more enjoyable to me than he was when he was with Chloe. I like this quippy Kevin. I mean, there was a million moments this week where he was entertaining and a little snarky, and I loved it. And I'm hoping that having had this closure with Chloe will have not changed him, but maybe toned down the darkness and inject a little bit of just a tiny bit of positivity and sense of humor into his life, because I like the balance that we're at right now with Kevin. He's like 2 parts dark and 1 part humor. I guess the entire Abbott family is gathered at the Abbott house to have a post Delia's dedication memorial service, just a family gathering at the Abbott house. Ashley shows up. Tracy is there. Love Tracy. Abby's there. Ashley announces that she's in town for good, which makes Jack very happy. It's the entire Abbott family. I of course loved seeing Tracy. It's appropriate for her to be there today. Tracy understands what it's like to have lost a child, and there's a certain level of support that only she could offer to Billy. So they're all standing there in the living room waiting for Billy to show up. This is an aside. I do love Tracy. I don't want to forget to say it because I thought, well, if not now, when? I think she's such a great character. I like the actress. This is weird, but I was on Etsy. I don't know if you guys know Etsy.com. It's kind of an indie shop, indie place to shop. It's like an eBay only handmade things. And I don't know what the heck I was doing or how I came across it, but Beth Maitland, the actress who plays Tracy, has a shop on Etsy, and I don't even remember what she makes, because it was something crafty. It's kind of, it's sort of a collection of crafters selling their things, crafters and artists selling their wares. And I came across her, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is totally Tracy. This is Beth Maitland. And there was a part of me that thought, oh my gosh, should I message her? 'Cause I don't live in California. I don't see the stars, and so there was a part of me that wanted to go all fangirl on her, but then I thought, maybe I should not do that. I think not being able to, I've never had any contact with anyone at YNR ever, and I think maybe in a way it's better because it could really screw you up. It's probably not an appropriate venue to contact her anyway, but it was just, I was delighted by, ooh, it's there. I think, if seeing someone who you've admired their work, maybe sometimes it's better to not pursue that, because if somebody says something to you that's a little bit off, it might change how you feel, and there's a part of me that just likes having YNR in this beautiful little glass globe that I can view, and I don't want to have my perspective shattered or changed in any way. I just want to enjoy it as a fan, and so I didn't contact her, but I just thought I would share that because I think that's the first time I've seen her on screen since I found her Etsy shop. But that's so cool that she makes stuff and she's a crafter, and she's like, yeah, I'm an actress, but I'm multi-talented. Boom, buy my stuff. So cool, so cool. So let's see, the entire Abbott family is there waiting for Billy to arrive, and the second he does, well, actually he's just left Victoria. He's walking up to the doorstep where everyone's awaiting his arrival, and he sees Delia, the actress and everything. The original little actress comes back, and Billy has this moment where he's seeing his daughter, and she's trying to give him positivity, and you can tell she is there as just a nice, benign memory, and he seemed to really enjoy that and really take strength from seeing her and hearing her little words of wisdom. He walks through the doors at the Abbott mansion, and Jill and Jack are chomping at the bit to tell him that they have a surprise. The Delia Foundation received a nice, generous offer of money or donation from Victor and Nikki to open up a children's theater in Delia's honor. Isn't that adorable? I think that's such a good idea. We'll never see it, but I thought it was just such a nice touch, a nice way to remember her. Yeah, I like that. Didn't the Delia Foundation receive a ton of money from Adam? I can't imagine they needed to raise too much extra. It seemed like Adam gave them enough to float that boat. I'm sure they could have built a children's theater on Adam's donation, but it's okay, it's okay. Victor and Nikki shelled out the cash, and I think it's a really, really nice thing, and Billy was so touched by it. And what followed was sort of Billy's coming to terms with the fact that this day is here. He described how he had been just dreading it, dreading that this day would come, and then it was here, and things were actually okay. And I can't quite recap everything that he said, but it was really beautiful, and I thought the actor did a wonderful job. I felt completely connected to him this week, and it was a recast that I was not a fan of at first because primarily I was a fan of David Tom. But I think this recast takes the character in a different direction, and I'm starting to see what's charming about him. I mean, I still kind of wish he was a character that wasn't Billy, but it's fine. I feel okay about it. I feel like I was able to really zone in on what he was feeling and describing, and I saw the pain in his eyes, and that made me feel connected to him. And it reminded me too of that wonderful sequence that we got right as I believe it was as Billy was on the roadside with Delia, holding her in his arms, waiting for the ambulance to come. Do you remember he had that flash forward of scenes into the future of Delia coming into what was his restaurant at the time, and you know, it was her graduation, and then another scene where she was going off to college, and another scene where she was coming back from college and saying how she wanted to run the restaurant with him. It was Billy's flash into the future of all of the things that could have been between he and his daughter, and it reminded me of that. It was so powerful. As horrible as the Delia death was, it certainly did cause a lot of, I mean, just raw emotion to portray, and so it reminded me of that, and I think Y&R in general did has done a nice job of taking us out of the depths of despair, getting us to a better place today, and I think they did a good job of the memorial service. The whole episode was capped off by Delia reading aloud. I don't know if I'm sorry, I can't remember if it's what was in this composition that she had written. The Abbotts read it aloud toward the end. I think after Billy had finished talking, that he gave them the end of this composition that Delia had written to read to one another. Jill asked for a copy of it to give to Esther. Thank goodness, considering how terribly you treated her, it's the least you could do is give her some comfort. But the whole episode's capped off with Delia just saying wisdom about, in general, how sometimes it is hard to be happy, but we need to try. That's my quick capsule summary of what Delia was saying. But it was interesting because it was this voiceover of a child's simple wisdom overlaid on top of the, complex, sometimes overly convoluted problems of adults. It showed kind of Jack and Victoria, and just in general, they moved from scene to scene, and what Delia was saying was applicable to each one. It was really nice. Just as that episode was closing, it was also showing Victoria making the first step toward moving forward with Stitch. And it showed Billy telling Chelsea, I think for the first time, that he loves her. And then we go back to the grave side where another mysterious shadow comes over the flowers and the photos and the stuffed animals, and a single gloved hand lays a rare flower down onto the ground. Remember when that was a clue? Oh, we found this rare orchid at the crash site, and where would that have come from? It's very expensive and very unique and rare. It's also, that's setting the scene for the return of Adam. That Adam, although we've seen the hand many times, and we're getting a sense of him not being happy with Chelsea's relationship with Billy, we are also reminded that Adam has not forgot either, and I'm assuming when he comes back into town there's got to be some kind of redemption. They have got to address that he didn't kill Delia. There's got to be some new evidence, or who knows how they're going to wrap all that up, but they surely will. And then the big reveal, I'm saving that one for last because it was my favorite. Chloe is walking through the park and she comes down into the forefront of the scene and says, you know, she said, I'm so glad, Delia, to know that this horrible emptiness is going to find a way to be filled. And she pulls back that big black coat and reveals her very pregnant belly. I'm assuming she's just about somewhere around, maybe further along than Victoria. I have no idea. But so she's 100% totally pregnant with Billy's baby. I don't even remember. She stole the sperm, right? She took the little vial of sperm and went off and did the thing. So I don't know how far along she would be. And I don't know if it's ever going to really be pursued. It almost seems like a little Easter egg for the viewers. Like, we're not really going to bring Chloe back and we're not really going to move forward and address this. But just so you know, in the future, that is what happened. Here's a little bit of closure for you, the viewer, as well. Because Chloe had mentioned to someone, I'm sorry, she had mentioned to Kevin in the earlier scene that, you know, we don't have a life together. I love you, but I don't love you the way you need me to. I have things to do on my own. I am planning to start a new life somewhere else. So she knows what's going on. She's gonna cuckoo magoo in some other town for a while, and I imagine we're not gonna hear from her until it's storyline appropriate or storyline needed. My only question about this whole thing is, you know, Delia appeared to Billy. Why didn't Delia appear to Chloe to tell her what a crazy freaking kook she is? I can't remember if it was Wednesday or Thursday's episode, but did you guys notice that Eileen Davidson has been added to the opening credits? Like, boom, right up top too, like psh, first top billing. I thought that was cool. I was surprised to see her there. It was a little bit of a shock. And in that same sequence, Phyllis was added to the credits, or Gina Tognani. I'm never gonna get her name right. I wish someone would like phonetically tell me how to say it, or call the voicemail and tell me how to say it. Tognoni, maybe? Just guessing. She's been added too, and not only that, but they showed a close-up of her face, and then the faraway scene was her busting in to the chapel. Was it last week? I guess it was. With the white dress on. It was her infamous entrance scene, which I thought was kind of cool. So thumbs up from Allie on the new opening credits. Gosh, was it last week that Phyllis busted into the chapel? It really feels like Y&R time it's just not, it doesn't coordinate with reality time, because that almost seems like it could have been 2 weeks ago. Maybe basically Y&R time is double. I don't know. But Phyllis is awake now. At the beginning of the week, she's in the hospital room and she's talking with Jack, finally, you know, getting to really dig into talking to him, and she tells him that she heard his proposal when she was in the coma, and that she wants to accept it. She wants to get married. So she says, yes, I accept your proposal. It's a little bit late. Would have been nice if you would have popped up out of that coma a little bit earlier. But Jack does not have the heart to tell her. I think he, you know, even, I don't know, I almost wonder if it was up to Jack if he would just tell her, but the doctors, of course, are telling everyone, you know, don't give Phyllis too much information. It's a year's worth of material. It's a year's worth of show. Don't tell her everything that happened on Y&R in the last year. So Jack is kind of playing along. She tells him that she pawned her engagement ring, but she wants him to go back and get it, which he did. He goes back, buys back her ring, and at the same time he calls Kelly saying that he has something that he wants to tell her. Come over to my office, please meet me here. Kelly reluctantly goes to visit Jack, walks in the door, sees the ring sitting on his desk, and thinks it's for her. Oh, she was mortified to realize that it was Jack's engagement ring for Phyllis. She had just gotten pumped up by Lily saying, oh, there may be a chance for us. And then she goes in there with this positive attitude only to get it ripped away, torn all the way down. And oddly, I feel more connected to Kelly when she's in pain or when she's hurting. I don't know if that says something about me or what, but I can't connect with Kelly when she's talking about Vivaldi in the park. I just have I can't get in. It's just not close enough to me and my life, I suppose. But, you know, where she's hurt, I can identify with that. I know what that feels like to be hurt. So I guess I felt more connected to her this week a little bit, or at least to the fact that she was mortified. Kelly is at that point running out of Jack's office in the opposite direction. He can't stop her, can't explain anything. She just goes back to the Abbott mansion and decides to get her things. And what do you know? It's exactly at the same time that Phyllis is being released from the hospital. Kelly is literally standing in the living room with her bag as Jack comes home, and he's got Phyllis in his arms. He insists on picking Phyllis up and carrying her over the threshold of the house. And Kelly's standing there hearing everything. Even Phyllis saying, this is not necessary, this is not necessary. And Jack saying, oh yes it is. And picking her up and bringing her into the house. Kelly just, I mean, and in that moment it was like, oh my gosh, he doesn't have to do that. You know, he wants to do that. And Kelly realizes, and she grabs her bag almost cartoonishly and grabs it and just runs out the back door before Jack and Phyllis can see her there. It was a little bit comical, I will admit. I also thought that Peter Bergman looked like he was struggling a little bit to pick her up. He's probably like, damn, I am too old for this. It couldn't have been easy. He was kind of like holding her, shaking, like, I gotta put her down. Oh boy. I thought that was a pretty good scene. Well, Summer is there to greet her mother and give her the welcome homecoming that she thinks she deserves. And Austin comes in the room. He wasn't there right away. Phyllis has an embrace with her daughter, and then Austin walks in, and Phyllis instantly has a negative reaction to him. Summer's like, yeah, this is my friend, and Phyllis is like, why are you here at my homecoming? You know, there's just something about her that's immediately like, I don't know this guy, don't like him, get him out of my face. And I don't entirely understand why Phyllis is having that reaction. I don't know if it's just, you know, because she has been through this ordeal and she really just wants to only be surrounded with the people that she knows and loves, but she's so closed off right now, and I just didn't entirely understand why the negative reaction to Austin, and I also don't understand why Summer is so afraid to tell her mother the truth. It's clear that Summer is afraid of her mother. She cops out and says, yeah, we're engaged. And Phyllis is immediately, she stands up and she's like, well, the hell you are. Why? Why, Phyllis? I don't understand why you're having that negative reaction, and I don't understand why Summer is being such a child about this. Be a woman, Summer. If you married this man, you need to be able to stand by your decisions. You need to be able to stand by your husband, present him proudly. You had no problem parading him around town to everybody else. Why, Phyllis? Don't stand there and make Austin feel like a second-class citizen by not telling her that you're married to him. It's just, I don't know. I understand, again, everybody's trying not to tell Phyllis everything, but lying to her like that, it's only gonna backfire in Summer's face. And it also reinforces to me what I said last week about Summer. I think Summer is a little girl. She really is. She's 18. She's old enough to make her decisions. She's old enough to get married. She's old enough to stand by her man and and present it proudly. But she is a little girl still inside. I think maybe she's been cloistered because she's just been a little rich girl out on the ranch riding ponies probably her entire life. But she is very immature still, and she's someone who I think has been kind of thrust into an adult world unexpectedly. When her mom went into a coma, her dad wasn't who she thought he was, and Summer, I think, has just been in a little bubble, and then all of a sudden that bubble got burst, and now she's just an afraid little girl out in the world. And I feel bad for her. At the same time, I think she grasped on to the nearest thing that she could find, and that was Austin. And I don't know that there's going to be a lot of life left in their relationship. He's already feeling on the outside of this rich family anyway, and now for Summer not to acknowledge their marriage has to hurt their marriage. I mean, again, yeah, I get not wanting to tell Phyllis too much, but you should be putting your marriage first, or at least up there, and I'm not getting that vibe from her. Phyllis ends up leaving Summer ends up leaving, and Phyllis and Jack are alone. Phyllis is insisting on knowing exactly, what is it up with this engagement? Where did she meet this boy? Give me the whole story. I just never would have, I don't know. I know Phyllis is dominant, but I don't know why she's so against somebody she never met. I don't know. Phyllis doesn't like to be controlled. Why would you try to control anyone else? But maybe that's how Summer's entire life has been when you've got a mother like Phyllis. I don't know. But Jack refuses to tell Phyllis the whole truth. He just says, you know what? It's Summer's story to tell. We're going to have to deal with it later. But Phyllis is insisting on knowing other things. What else has happened this year? And I was surprised, but Jack started to tell Phyllis about Billy and Victoria's marriage falling apart. And he was giving information, but not enough information. I guess Phyllis I think Phyllis must have gone into the coma after Delia had died. So it seemed like the thing regarding that Jack was not wanting to tell Phyllis was that Delia was gone. And that would be something big for her to deal with. So he's trying to tell her the story, but doesn't want to overwhelm her with Delia's death. But then also it was Delia's death that led to Billy's affair with Kelly, which led to Jack meeting Kelly and falling in love with her. So once, I think Jack even said, once you pull on the string a little bit, a lot of stuff starts to unravel. So we're not there yet. He just scratched the surface, just started pulling the thread. So I think it's going to be enjoyable to watch that thread come undone. Also very enjoyable, Jack gets a phone call from Phyllis's nurse because they're all trying to find answers about what happened at this hospital. How did Phyllis get loose like this? And the nurse informs Jack that there was a visitor who was not on the list. He was tall and he was dark and he was imposing, and oh yeah, he had a mustache. I loved that moment where they both realized Victor. It's Victor. Was he twirling the mustache or combing it or anything like that? That was a really good moment. And it just so happened, as they're finding out this information, who should ring on the Abbott doorbell but Victor. Victor happens to stop by, and he totally confesses. I'm assuming he knows that little secret's gonna come out eventually, so he might as well confess to it. But the way Victor holds himself, it's like he finds a way to make it okay. He's sitting there saying, well, Phyllis was in the coma for so long and no one else was doing a damn thing, so I took it upon myself and I hired the specialist in experimental treatments, and look, you're here now, aren't you? So he made it okay in his explanation. I don't know if that's how he really feels in his head, but it probably is. He gets completely self-righteous about it, like he was doing it for Summer. Maybe he didn't get along with Phyllis, but Summer is his granddaughter, and she always will be, and so he wanted to help her mother out of this coma. Please! I don't think any of that. It wasn't about any of that. Victor wasn't looking for experimental treatments earlier in the year. He only started looking for experimental treatments when it was time to bust Sharon about her secret. So don't be fronting, Victor. We know why you did it. It was really quite clear. And the second Jack leaves the room, Victor and Phyllis have this moment together where she's like, okay, well, what's the real deal around here? And Victor makes it very clear to Phyllis, you're here, you're awake because of me. And now you're going to help me. You're awake because of me, and now you're going to do what I want you to do. There's actually an itch. I have this itch on my back. If you could just scratch this itch, please. Hilary is in New York City. She's all by herself attending a conference, and Devon cannot leave well enough alone. No, he knows she's alone there, and this is a perfect opportunity for a tryst. So Devon has to hunt her down in her hotel room while she's away on business. It's so inappropriate. I'm so irritated with them both at this point. I don't like the lie. I mean, the romance isn't good enough to justify the lie, you know, as a viewer, for me anyway. But he hunts her down and he tells her that he loves her. He cannot imagine his life without her. Well, you're gonna have her in your life one way or another. She's kind of your de facto mother-in-law, but oh no, 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 no. You've got to have what you want, Devon. And she, you know what though? She wants it too. I think she has enjoyed being pursued. I think they both enjoy the forbidden aspect of this. Their chemistry was not this hot before she got married. To me, that just says there's something about the illicitness that makes them both want it more, which I think is probably understandable. But come on, are you really willing to ruin Neil's life over this? Apparently, yes. She tells him she loves him too. They start to kiss, which leads to more kissing, which leads to sexing. It's ridiculous. They constantly are doing this yes, no, yes, no, no, yes, no, oh, and it's getting on my nerves. Like, they're lying there in bed and she's telling him, I just don't want to keep lying to Neil. Well, come on. I think Hilary feels like she owes Neil or something. He's not your father. You don't owe him anything. If you wanted to be with him, be with him. If you don't want to be with him, don't be with him. Why is it so hard for you to understand that you're hurting him more by doing what you're doing now? Neither of them seem to get that, and neither of them have stuck with their word. How many times have they said that this is the last time? Literally, they're lying in bed together. Or no, I don't know if they were laying in bed together. It might have been after. But literally, he agrees. You know, she's like, no, we can't. And he says, okay, fine. Okay, well, I'm going to respect your decision to end it. Well, maybe one for the road. And they lay back down and they're having sex again, like for another 2 days. It wasn't just one more. It was like another 2 days worth of sex fest. Come on. It's ridiculous. And Devon is trying so hard to make something special out of their illicit affair. He is getting champagne and flowers, and he brings in room service and tells her, let's have a first date. And she's quick to remind him, well, it'll be our last too. But she's in on it too. She's wearing her wedding ring and her engagement ring to Neil the entire time. They're sitting there on this little first date and acting like it's okay. It's just not okay with me. I mean, neither of them are blameless. Devon hunted her down, but she could have said no. Yes, I think she's being pursued very hard by him, but she could have said no. Instead, they're just allowing themselves this indulgence. Like, inside of these four walls of this hotel room, it's our own little world. We're just creating the world, almost the alternate reality that we want to have. And they're starting to kind of role play and dance, and it's a fantasy. It's all a fantasy capped off by another round of sex. That's kind of what it really is. I'm glad that you guys are, feeling attracted, but what do you really even know about each other other than that you like to have sex with one another and that you're hurting Neil? That all of this is hurting Neil. Well, of course, as one could have guessed much earlier in the week, Devon and Hilary are lying there in each other's arms naked when old Neil shows up wrapping his cane on the door. Oh, it's so bad, but it's good. It is good. It's a good story. But I mean, tapping his blind cane on the door. And she goes, thinking, it's lucky Devon didn't answer the door. She goes to answer, and it's lucky that nobody could freaking hear the giggling and hee from inside the hotel room. Kane's there with Neil, by the way. He's assisted him in coming to New York City, and I'm surprised Kane couldn't hear. Kane's the only one that knows what's going on, really. But Hilary flings open the door, and Neil's standing there. I immediately thought, whoa, couldn't Neil smell the waft of sex that just came out of that room? I mean, and actually a couple different people, several people said the exact same thing. Neil couldn't kind of smell what was going on in the room, because for real, if they've been in there for days, and then he comes into the room. There's just no way. I mean, okay, we can suspend our disbelief because it's a show, but there is no way that they were having sex in that room for days. I mean, I don't even think they were letting housekeeping in or anything like that. They're in there for days doing the nasty, and then not only is Neil, you could have smelled it probably when he opened the door, but not only that, he comes in the room. Please. He walks right on in. Devon is in bed. He's naked in bed. Oh God, Neil is just, he looks like such a fool. Such an incredible fool. I mean, if you love the man at all, stop making him look like that. The beauty of this whole thing, though, is Kane. That's the part I'm really enjoying. Kane is the only one that sees exactly what's going on, and Kane is the voice, the moral authority, the voice of moral authority. He's standing there looking at both Hilary and Devon like, I could kill you. I could kill you both right now, but I'm not going to because I respect your father. It's just, I love Kane's role in all of this. He's just seeing exactly what's going on even if Neil can't, and Kane kind of grabs Devon and ushers him quickly out of the room. Yet again, why exactly is it that Neil can't tell that there's another person in the room? Neil is such a freaking fool. And I loved it, though. I loved Kane taking Devon out of the room, out into the hallway, and Devon's just standing there saying, but I love her, Kane, you don't understand. I need her in my life. This is real. She loves me too. It's real. And Kane says, the only thing that is real about this situation right now is that man, your father, in there with his wife. And that was such a reality check. Everything that happened in those four walls, that was fantasy. The reality is, you little twerp, that she's married to your father. It really gets me riled up. And I like it, though, because I tell ya, I want Neil to find out, but there's just something about Kane right now that I'm really digging. I would not mind seeing Kane just man up and whoop that little rich boy's butt. So before Victor paid his visit to Phyllis, he has his grand homecoming. He walks into the ranch. He did notice a vodka bottle on the mantle, and that is Nikki's drink of choice. So I'm kind of wondering if the alarm bells are going off in his head yet, because that bottle was half full. Of course, a real drunk wouldn't leave the bottle half full. I don't know if that's normally the bottle that's on the mantle, but there's something I think that Victor kind of picked up on there. Not enough to really press her about it, though. It's still, again, extremely difficult for me to believe that Nikki is walking around town vodka sloshed. I mean, have you ever drank vodka or known anyone that's drinking vodka? Like, it's obvious. Vodka comes off your breath like sex wafts out of a hotel room door. Proud of myself on that one. All she keeps doing is popping a breath mint. I mean, it not only makes it worse, like the smell of vodka, it's so, like, minty acidic kind of, and the mint is just the same thing. It's shocking to me, but she's getting away with it. Victor's back. He's completely clueless. He does call for Mariah, and she comes up to the ranch, and he reveals the paternity test results to her, the paternity test results that we've all been waiting for. He does reveal that Faith is indeed Nick's daughter, so I think that's good. I would personally prefer it that way. It's a little less complicated, and I've had enough of the paternity for 1 year or maybe even 2 years. But I did enjoy Mariah saying to him, well, you know, are you sure that Nick's actually your son? Because you two are nothing alike. I enjoy the relationship between Victor and Mariah. In some ways, she's the most like him of everyone in the family, and I like that she doesn't pull any punches with him. She doesn't want anything from him other than his money, and she'll really take it for a job well done. They have, I guess the thing I like is they just have an understanding. There's no wishy-washiness. Like, everybody has tried to manipulate Victor to get at his money. She's just like, I want your money. Bam, hand out. And I like it. I liked something about their relationship, and it was cool seeing them together once again. Mariah's filling Victor in on the wedding. He missed the wedding of the century. The fact that Phyllis busted in on it, which was, by the way, what prompted Victor to go see Phyllis. And it was good. It was a good scene. He peels her off a bill out of his wallet. Did you see, like, reach into this pocket? He has this big just wad of cash. Probably a little money clip or something, or maybe just a wad of cash. I don't know. He just pulls it out and he peels off a bill for her and gives it to her. Like, what was it? It couldn't have been $100. Like, $100 is nothing. Like, so was it a $1,000 bill? Does Victor carry wads of $1,000 bills in his pocket? I don't know why, but I found that just a little bit exciting. Like, ooh, big wad of cash. It was a good scene. Victor is thinking he knows all. He's ahead of this game. What he doesn't know about is what's going on with his wife. Right now, they are at the police station. Dylan, Avery, Paul, Nikki, Kevin, they are setting up a sting operation to trace the phone call they've been waiting for from Ian Ward. Sure enough, they're sitting there waiting. Nikki finally gets a phone call. Kevin's there trying to trace the call, and he's being so quippy and enjoyable too. I really enjoyed Kevin this week. But of course, Nikki gets the phone call, and we actually see for the first time our villain has returned. He is not dead. It's true. It was all a setup. And we see Ian Ward's face, and oh, he's just so creepy. And he's to having this conversation with Nikki. It was very enjoyable. She said, she knows what he wants is more than money. That he wants her. Oh, but the money is good too. Because she said something like, oh shoot, I can't even remember it. But it was clear that he wanted both. And I enjoyed that. He arranges a phone. He says he broke into her car and he placed a burner phone in her glove box, and that's how he wants to communicate with her, indicating he knows completely that the police are listening. He didn't go to the trouble of devising this elaborate plan and knowing that Nikki shares a son with the chief of police and then expect the police not to be involved. So he has thought of everything. He's got the ranch bugged too, because later she leaves and she's talking to him. She gets another phone call from him, and he has the ranch bugged and can hear everything that's kind of going on behind the scenes with Paul's sting operation. Luckily, Paul is trying to be 2 steps ahead. He's trying to set up a situation where he can lure Ian to the athletic club to meet with Nikki, but at the same time still catch him. Basically, Nikki is at the athletic club sitting like a sitting duck, and Paul thinks he's 2 steps ahead of Ian, but he might not be. Dylan is in jail right now. He's going crazy being behind bars, and he also is going crazy by not being involved in this investigation. He feels obviously personally vested, and he wants to be involved, but because they have to keep up the ruse, he has to stay in prison. And he ended up convincing Harding that he should be able to provide some information to help with this sting operation. Nobody else knows except for Dylan that there is some kind of like, I forget what it was like a trap door, or maybe not a trap door, some kind of alternate basement entrance to the athletic club that is very, very tricky to find, and really only Dylan would know how to find it. So I'm sure that that's the way that Ian is gonna slip in and undetected and get Nikki alone. I mean, that's exactly where it's headed. I think he's gonna come in, Paul's gonna be gone, nobody's gonna be there to protect her, he's gonna put Nikki in danger. Ian preys on the weak. It's hard for me to believe that he still has a thing for Nikki. I think it might be more about that she got away and he doesn't like that. He feeds off of other people's weaknesses, and that's what Nikki is right now especially. So if I had to take a guess, I'd say that Dylan is gonna end up breaking in, being the one to save her. Kind of predictable, but it should be interesting in the moment. Unless, I don't know, I keep noticing that Maureen is hanging around in the hall. She knows Nikki's got a room at that hotel, and something seems off about her. I wonder if there's any chance that Maureen is going to either knowingly or unknowingly get in the way of this whole thing and muck it up somehow. I'm not sure. Is there any chance that Maureen is on Ian's payroll? Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to get going soon, but I want to mention first what's going on with the Baldwins. I mean, Lauren and Michael have gotten a room upstairs. They're sexing it up all over town, making out in public places, going on and on about how their lives are just better than it's ever been. They can't remember the last time they were this happy, which just, they're gonna be set up for some disappointment. Lauren is doing a publicity stunt at Fenmores where she's hired a psychic. Another one coming into town. I'm surprised that, didn't Sharon see a psychic at that fall festival several years back when she was presumed dead? I don't know what it is with the show and psychics. I don't know, but apparently there's gonna be one, and she had to sign a contract with Lauren and Michael on behalf of Fenmores, and she takes Michael's hand and sees that there's something in his future that's not happy. She just looks at him and says, "Oh, take care." And then Michael makes a phone call to his doctor and finds out that he has to schedule a follow-up appointment. Blah. It's gonna be the downer. Please, Waynar, you've gotten us out of this tailspin. Please don't take us back down. That part's gonna be sad. What should be interesting though is the fact that Sharon has made an appointment to see a psychic. She needs to make an appointment to see a psychotherapist. Okay, you guys, I have to go, but I love you and I will be back next week. I hope you enjoyed this week's of shows and that you leave me a comment. I love your comments. I always read them and always enjoy them. You guys are the best. I love you so much. Have a good week. Bye.